Have you ever tried a longevity intervention that worked for others, but not for you? Maybe you cut caffeine, but your sleep didn't improve. You took magnesium for better sleep, but you're still waking up at 3 a.m. You tried adaptogens, but your stress levels didn't change. The issue isn't that these tools are ineffective. It's where they sit in the hierarchy of levers, the order of operations for restoring optimal function. Where an intervention sits in the body's regulatory hierarchy determines how much impact it has. For example, when it comes to sleep, caffeine, magnesium, and adaptogens all act on physiological systems affecting rest and relaxation, adenosine signaling, GABAergic tone, and the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. But when the core regulators like hormonal, circadian, and cortisol timing are out of sync, these inputs alone rarely deliver meaningful change. They're not ineffective. They're being introduced into a system with impaired upstream regulation, where foundational signaling mechanisms have not yet been restored, and where they don't act on the primary drivers of dysfunction. Not all interventions are equal. I've seen this pattern over and over. Someone removes caffeine or adds magnesium, tryptophan, 5-HTP, melatonin, GABA, ashwagandha, the list goes on, hoping for better sleep, but nothing shifts. Let me use myself as an example. I cut caffeine 10 months ago, and now I sleep like a baby, 9+ hours a night, rock solid. But 15 years ago, I also tried cutting caffeine to fix my sleep, and nothing. I was still wired and exhausted, staring at the ceiling until 4 a.m. Why? At that time, my biggest problem wasn't caffeine, it was light and circadian dysregulation. Stress was high at night. Melatonin production was out of phase. And my light environment, essential for anchoring the body's central clock, was deeply misaligned. I lived in an apartment jungle, commuting from one artificially lit box to another. From my windowless elevator to my car in a dark parking garage, to my office's underground garage, back to my gym's dimly lit garage, and finally into a gym with no natural light. My body barely received a signal that the sun existed. In that context, removing caffeine, a compound that targets adenosine receptors, was physiologically insignificant. I was trying to pull a small lever, caffeine, when the big one, circadian rhythm, was broken. You can't correct circadian misalignment by modulating adenosine alone. Cutting caffeine alone doesn't fix a flipped sleep-wake cycle. Modulating the adenosine system won't override a body that still thinks it's daytime at 2 a.m. Until I addressed my light exposure and circadian regulation, no amount of caffeine tweaking was going to make a difference. Today, everything is different. I set up my home to bring in as much natural light as possible, big windows, lots of sun. Even when I'm indoors, I make sure to open the windows every day, no matter the weather. Yep, even when it's freezing. And I get outside for a walk daily, no excuses. All the lights in my home automatically adjust their color temperature throughout the day, cooler, brighter light in the morning and warmer, softer, dimmer in late afternoon. Each room, kitchen, office, bedroom, is equipped with amber or red spectrum lighting to support melatonin onset and reduce overstimulation. If I need screen time after 7 p.m., I double down. Blue blocking glasses on, screen hue deeply shifted toward red. Now, my environment works with my body's natural rhythm, not against it. Only under those conditions did removing caffeine become effective. Why? Because I had already removed the upstream rock circadian misalignment, sitting on top of the problem. Caffeine was never the root issue, just an amplifier of an already dysregulated rhythm. But once my circadian rhythm was in place, caffeine became the last obstacle standing between me and deep, effortless, baby-like sleep. The hierarchy of longevity levers: fix big before small. Most people approach health interventions backward. They reach for small levers, caffeine timing, magnesium, fasting, before stabilizing the big ones. Then wonder why progress feels slow or inconsistent. But here's what's consistent with physiology. Secondary and optimization levers do work, they just don't have enough power to override broken foundational systems. You can't out-supplement poor sleep. You can't biohack your way out of a dysregulated circadian rhythm. When higher leverage dysfunction exists, it will always blunt or mask the effect of downstream interventions. Stacking interventions in the right order matters. 1. High leverage levers. Address these first. These aren't just lifestyle tips. They create the biological conditions required for everything else to work. Without these, you'll struggle to feel the impact of secondary interventions. Sunlight exposure, morning light to anchor circadian rhythm, dim evenings to regulate melatonin. Sleep schedule, consistent wake and sleep time to reinforce natural hormonal cycles. Stress regulation, cortisol regulation, nervous system control. Movement, activity for metabolic flexibility, muscle mass preservation, neurological resilience, and hormone regulation. Nutrition, diverse fiber and plants, ample protein, clean fats, real food, low toxins control, and minimal inflammatory load. 2. Secondary levers. They work, but only if foundations are in place. These interventions can support your system, but they don't correct foundational dysfunction. Caffeine timing and intake, cutting it improves sleep, but if your circadian rhythm is still misaligned, you won't feel the full effect. Supplements, magnesium, zinc can help, but they can't fix lifestyle issues. Intermittent fasting, great for metabolic health, but if your blood sugar is unstable or overall stress load is high, it can backfire. Cold plunges, sauna, can accelerate recovery, but can add strain if baseline systems are dysregulated. 3. Optimization levers. Fine-tuning for extra gains. Once you have the foundations and secondary levers in place, these can take you from great to optimized. Nootropics, useless if you're sleep-deprived. Red light therapy, does not replace natural sunlight exposure. Peptides, hormone modulation, amplifies imbalances if your system is dysregulated. Hyperbaric oxygen chamber therapy, HBOT, high cost and possibly valuable when core systems are already well supported. Targeted supplementation, not a replacement for diet and movement. Longevity levers work in layers, not isolation. So what is the key takeaway? It's not that secondary and optimization levers don't work. It's that they work in proportion to how well your core systems are functioning. If you're pulling smaller levers while ignoring the big ones, frankly, you'll never get the full impact. But when you build the hierarchy in the right order, every intervention works better. Most people skip straight to step 2 or 3 before fixing step 1. That's why longevity interventions don't work for so many people. They take melatonin but still can't sleep because their light exposure is broken. They try fasting but feel awful because their metabolism isn't stable. They take all the supplements but don't feel any different because their basics aren't in place. If you want results, don't just pull more levers, pull the right ones in the right order. How you can apply this today. Find your biggest bottleneck. Are you focusing on small tweaks while ignoring foundational issues? The answer usually isn't try harder. It's spotting the one biological system process that's gatekeeping your other efforts. Fix the high-leverage levers first. No amount of supplements, cold plunge, red light, fasting, or hyperbaric oxygen therapy, HBOT, will override a system that is not able to support itself biologically. Stack interventions in the right order. Once your foundation is solid, secondary levers will start to work the way they should. I've seen this framework unlock results for people who'd been spinning their wheels, especially high performers stuck in fatigue or persistent brain fog. When they reordered the levers and started to focus on the biggest bottlenecks first, everything else started to click. Want a structured approach to fixing aging accelerators in the right order? Once you know which high-leverage lever to fix first, my RRR method helps you move forward, step by step. Reduce what's accelerating aging. Replace it with smarter alternatives. Remove the source once you've stabilized. Refine with deeper optimization. Not sure what your highest leverage lever is? Even if you've already made smart changes like fixing your light environment or cleaning up your diet, you might still be missing the right starting point for your body right now, depending on what you are trying to solve. Gut issues, persistent fatigue, low-grade inflammation, each may have a different entry point based on your current lifestyle and environment. Next time you try something and it doesn't work, don't just move on. Instead, ask yourself, what foundational lever am I overlooking that's holding everything else back? If this episode was helpful, consider liking and subscribing so you'll be notified when new ones go live. And if you'd like to help more people take ownership of their longevity and personalize their longevity roadmap, consider sharing this episode with them. To learn more about Sleep OS, my flagship system built to help you sleep through the night, even when good sleep hygiene hasn't worked, visit thelongevityvault.com. The link's in the show notes.